Last class, I think we started with heredity. We started with that chapter. What was the last definition we had studied? I think the introduction, the definitions we had studied all. Today we are supposed to study the laws of inheritance. Just tell me what was the last
Alleles and traits.
Alleles and traits. Alleles and traits. We studied. Phenotype, genotype we studied. Homozygous, heterozygous we studied.
We studied the dominant and
Acha. Okay. Those few words, first of all, I'll just take those words again. Couple of words last time, quite a number of them we had discussed. Again, I'll go through certain pair of words. Then, when we study the laws, it will be very easy for you to understand. Now, the basic concept of genetics that we study. The first thing is, let me talk about pairs of chromosomes and terms associated. A concept of genes and alleles, concept of genes and traits. I think all of you are aware. What is this? This is how we represent a pair of chromosomes. In this pair of chromosomes, I talk about a segment of the DNA. What is this segment of the DNA known as? This segment of the DNA can be considered as genes. But this is a pair of chromosomes. This chromosome has DNA. Listen, all of you. Then the laws we can finish up in just 2 days. Otherwise, I will finish the portion, but nothing will be understood. Next Tuesday, we are going to wind up with the syllabus. See that you understand. So this two chromosomes individually that have their DNA. This also has its DNA. So if it has its DNA, it also has a small region which can be considered as gene. This also has its DNA. So this also has its own segment known as a gene. But now, the form of the gene in both the chromosome, is it the same? That is what we have to understand. If you remember, the other day I was talking about a characteristic gene can control characteristics. Gene can control characteristics that we exhibit. If I talk about an example of a characteristic like eye color, we understand in human, eye color are in different forms. Eye color would be in different forms. What were the common type of eye colors we had come across? Brown, and then black, and then blue. Normal eye color. This is what we had studied the other day. A gene can regulate characters. An example we are studying right now. But whichever character you pick up in the human population, characters are always in different forms. None of the characteristics that we come across in human population exist in just one form. I talk about height, variable. Skin tone, variable. Eye color, variable. Hair texture, variable. Shape of the nose, variable. Shape of the eye, variable. Whichever characteristic you think of right now, in the human population, it does not exist in just one form. So, yes, gene can regulate a characteristic, but characteristic in human, plants, any other animal will have forms. So, what are these forms of the character known as? Forms of the characteristics are known as what? Traits. I think these definitions we had written the other day. What are traits? Alternate forms of a character. So if the gene is regulating a character and the character has got variable forms, so the genes also should have variable forms. This chemical composition which we are talking about as gene also should have variable forms. How can one form regulate the brown also, the black also, and the blue color also? Not possible. So this chemical composition also has to be in different forms. So what are these chemical compositions known as? These different chemical compositions are known as alleles. So these different compositions are known as alleles. Then what are alleles? Different forms of a gene. Alternate forms of a gene are known as alleles. What are traits? Alternate forms of a character are known as traits. How do we write alleles? The next part. How do we write alleles? Where are alleles present? In a pair of chromosomes. Alleles are present just opposite to each other in a chromosome. I talk about eye color as a character, and if these are the three forms, how many alleles does this gene have? Three forms, three alleles. So how many alleles will this gene for eye color have? How many types of eye color? Three. So alleles also will be three. What are the alleles? How do we write? Maybe this, maybe this, and maybe this. What did we write? These are the different alleles for one gene. All of them are regulating eye color, but in different ways. Why? This chemical composition is different, this is different, this is different. How do we designate alleles? By letters or numbers. So, right now, for ease of understanding, basic introduction only we are talking about. So, we will designate genes, alleles by letters only. So, I would say the allele responsible for the brown color. What is the allele responsible for the brown color? Maybe this. For the black, maybe this. For the blue, maybe this. Clear? This is what we had discussed the other day also. So, different forms of a gene. What are they called? Alleles. If I say in the human population, skin color has 24 traits, then how many alleles does that gene regulating skin color has? Listen to what I'm saying. I'll say in the human population, eye color has 3 traits. How many alleles does the gene regulating eye color has? 3. In the human population, skin tone, 27 types. Skin color is available, skin color possible in the human population in 27 forms, 27 traits. Then how many alleles are there for the gene regulating the skin color? 27 alleles. आया समझ में? जितने alleles या तो let me tell you this way, जितने traits उतने alleles. For a particular gene which is regulating a character, जितने types of characters मतलब जितने type of traits होते हैं उतने type of alleles भी होता है. One particular allele for one type of a trait. अभी possible है in one individual 2 traits are possible, same trait for same allele possible. How? This is what we learned the other day also. Let me see how much you all remember. Let me talk about 4 individuals. I'm just talking about eye color right now. ये समझ में आया तो लॉस बहुत अच्छी तरह से समझ में आएगा. Again, I'm talking about a gene. This gene is regulating the eye color. This gene is regulating the eye color. I'm talking about 4 individuals. Now, in these 4 individuals, in the first individual, I see that the alleles are like this. What type of eye color this person will have? The eye color the person will have is definitely brown. What is this type of a condition known as when the alleles are the same in the pair of chromosome? This condition is known as a homozygous condition. Homozygous matlab when alleles are the same for a gene. Why did we say capital letter? Why did we say small letter here? Because I talk about in another individual wahi gene for the eye color, but this person has this allele and this allele. First of all, what is this type of a condition known as when the chromosome has contrasting alleles, same alleles nahi hai? contrasting alleles है, different alleles है, but both the alleles are actually regulating eye color, कोई ना कोई form of eye color only. What is this type of a condition known as? This type of a condition, first of all, let us learn. This type of a condition is known as a heterozygous condition. Homo matlab same, hetero matlab different. Common terms, homogeneous mixtures, heterogeneous mixtures, there also you have studied. So in the entire story of science, homo always means same, similar. Hetero always means different. तो यहाँ पे भी वही सेम कॉन्सेप्ट है, होमोजेनस सेम एलील्स, heterogeneous different alleles. But then what is the eye color of this individual now? The eye color of this individual is still found to be brown. Q? Why is this allele not expressing? Yes, quite a number of times we get to see when alleles are in a heterozygous condition, one expresses, the other does not. The allele which does not express, this allele is known as a recessive allele, and the allele that expresses is known as the dominant allele. The allele that expresses is known as dominant, and the allele which is not expressing is known as recessive. So now if I talk about the third individual, and in the third individual the genes are like this one and this one. What is supposed to be the eye color of this individual? Black. The eye color is black. तो अभी कौन सा dominant है, कौन सा recessive है? The black allele is dominant, the blue allele is recessive. Then what is this type of a condition known as, where the pair of chromosomes have two different alleles for the same gene? Heterozygous. When will a person have blue eye color? A person will have blue eye color only when the conditions are like this. But why am I writing blue for small p? Why not capital B again here? Because capital B is an allele always expressing, whether it is together with the same allele or whether it is in presence of a contrasting allele. But is small b expressing when it is in presence of a contrasting allele? No, because this is a less or least powerful allele. Whenever it is present with another allele, it gets suppressed, it does not express. So such type of alleles are always known as recessive alleles. So this type of alleles will express only when they are exactly in identical forms in both the chromosome of the parent. So this type of a condition is also known as homozygous. But now let us learn a difference between this condition and this condition. This type of a condition is known as a homozygous dominant condition, and this type of a condition is known as a homozygous recessive condition. This is the reason why in human population, if I have to understand, in human population maybe only 20% of individuals have the blue eye color. 20% of the individuals have the blue eye color. Clear? Another 30% will be having the black eye color, and 50% will be having the brown eye color, because this allele will get expressed whenever homozygous or heterozygous. Let me tell you this type of a situation. Tell me what should be the eye color of this individual there. Brown. Meaning this allele, whether with this or with this, it is this one only which will express. Meaning out of the three alleles, this is the most powerful. In a homozygous condition also it expresses, in a heterozygous condition also it expresses, and that's the reason it is always designated with a capital letter, indicating that it is a very powerful allele, always expressing. But this we are writing this way because when I talk about a person who has the combination of alleles like this, eye color is brown. This is recessive, less powerful. But when a person has a combination of alleles like this, then this is expressive. Are you understanding? When these two are together, then this is the dominant one. When these two are together, then this is the dominant one. I was talking about 27 alleles for the skin color. So there is always a sequence of dominance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ऐसे sequence of dominance होता है whenever we are talking about more number of alleles for a gene. Clear? So now the first thing is that we are talking about is this concept. Now let me just talk about a concept of alleles where we understand a concept of alleles. First of all, what did I write down? What are these? The brown color, the black color is something that we can see. I would say the brown and the black color is something that we can see. So the visual expression, this is known as phenotype. Curly hair, straight hair, we can see this. The visual expression of the alleles, that is known as phenotype. But now, for example, now sitting here, I may talk about that sitting here 10, 12 of us. Most of us, we will be having the brown eye color. Maybe out of this 10, 12 of us, maybe 6 of us, we will be having, or 7 of us, we are having the brown eye color, another 3, 4 of us having the black eye color. But now, if 6 of us, we are having the brown eye color, by looking at each other, are we able to understand whether we are this genotype, or whether we are this combination, or whether we are this combination? Are we able to understand? I have brown eye color. Tell me, look at me and tell me I have this combination or this combination. कौन सा? ये वाला? क्यों ये क्यों नहीं? Are we able to understand looking at each other whether we have got this combination or this combination? No, we cannot understand. What is this combination of alleles known as? This combination of alleles, this combination of alleles, this is known as the genotype. By looking at each other, we can understand the phenotype, but not the genotype. We can understand the color of the eye, we can understand the color of the skin, we can understand the shape of the nose and the texture of the hair and the height and etc. etc. We can understand phenotype. But genotype kya hai? That we cannot understand. As just now I gave you a very simple example. 7 of us, 6 of us, if we have the brown eye color, some of us may be homozygous and some of us will be heterozygous based on our parental conditions. But हमें देख के वो समझ में नहीं आएगा. That for that we'll have to study the chromosomes and the genes. Then only we will understand. So what is the definition of phenotype? What should you understand? What is the definition of phenotype? Phenotype means the visual expression of genes. What is genotype? Arrangement of alleles for a gene. What are the types of alleles that we have? What is homozygous? I told you, clear hai. What is heterozygous? Clear hai. What is heterozygous? Alleles are different. What is homozygous? Alleles are same. Phenotype, genotype. How do we write down the genotype? Always this way, in letters. Dominant allele को कैसे लिखेंगे? Capital letter. Recessive allele को कैसे लिखेंगे? Smaller, lower case letters. And the pair of chromosomes always to be drawn this way. What does this box or what does this segment of the chromosome indicate? It's a gene. Clear hai all these terms? Now we try understanding the concept of Mendel's laws. Mendel, Gregor Johann Mendel. Who was he? Gregor Johann Mendel was actually a monk. And in his monasteries, he was constantly observing certain plants. And some of his plants grabbed his attention. Some of the plants in his monastery, he was every time observing that sometimes the plants gave rise to purple flowers, sometimes white flowers. Generally, whenever we talk about a particular type of a plant, maybe now I talk about the red colored hibiscus, always red flowers. I talk about the yellow colored hibiscus, always yellow flowers. I talk about the blue colored flower plant, always blue flowers, right? There are few exceptions where we come across that expressions of the traits are very, very clear. So in one such plant, he was observing that sometimes the flowers were purple, sometimes the flowers were white. Sometimes the seeds were yellow, sometimes the seeds were green. Sometimes the plants were quite tall and sometimes the plants were quite dwarf. So some of these features grabbed his attention and he wanted to study on this plant. So now he was a monk, as I said. He was a priest, he was a monk. But then he started developing interest in growing plants now. He started growing plants and observing them generation after generation. And then he observed that for this particular type of a plant, which plant? The pea plants. The pea plants, the pea seed that we eat, the pea plants. For these pea plants, he observed that the characteristics were always not the same in terms of height, seed color, flower color, etc. So here we start the concept of the laws of inheritance. Who was this monk who turned into a biologist, a famous scientist later? He is known as Gregor Johann Mendel. On what type of plants did he experiment on? The common name is garden pea. You'll have to remember to write this way. You are asked in your exams. Write the common name, write the scientific name. Common name kya hai? Garden pea. And what is the scientific name? The scientific name is Pisum sativa. Pisum sativa. Now, following the rules of nomenclature, this is how you should write. Following the rules of nomenclature. What is binomial nomenclature? You all did not study that chapter on 5-kingdom classification last year, right? You did not have the chapter, right? So these concepts actually you all have not studied. Whenever we write any biological name, even for us, what is our scientific name? What is it?
Homo sapiens.
Homo sapiens. So Homo sapiens कैसे लिखेंगे? We'll have to write in a proper way. If I just write Homo sapiens, is this the correct way I write? No, this is a wrong way of writing. So what is the correct way of writing any scientific name, any biological name? The first letter, this is known as the generic name. ये categories है. Generic name इसको बोला जाता है. This is known as the genus name. And the first letter of the genus name always should be capital. The second part is the species name, very specific. Species name, and the species name should always start with a small letter. Whenever we get to see these names in the textbooks, any journal, any magazine, etc., the names are always written not in the English normal font. अभी हम कोई भी एक particular textbook के font देखते हैं, ज़्यादातर Arial font रहता है. But this will always be written in italics. Italic font में लिखा जाता है हमेशा. But we cannot write italics and differentiate from our regular handwriting. So हमें क्या करना है? We'll have to underline them. You are asked in your paper, write down the common name. This is what you are writing. Write down the scientific name. Scientific name, if you are writing any mistake here, capital P के जगह small लिखा, underline नहीं किया, you will not get mark. So you have to be very specific. What are the basic rules? The generic name, capital letter. The species name should start with a small letter. Both the words underline. So 1 mark आराम से मिलेगा. Otherwise, again, half there or no mark there. So that is the first thing that we understand. What was that plant? The plant was garden pea plants. Now, this is a question again that you are asked, why did Mendel select this plant for his studies? The reasons are, when we are talking about any type of a plant, Tell me, if a plant has got a long lifespan, a plant grows and gives flowers and seeds almost in 2 years, 3 years time. Is that a plant very good for experimenting? A plant has got a lifespan. Now, did we ever come across that the plants like the banyan and all have been ever used in experiments? Did you ever come across? The banyan tree has got a span more than us. Or the big tall trees. Did we ever come across the mangoes and the coconut tree ever been used for an experiment? No, never, because they have got long lifespan. They take almost 2 years to grow and then another 3 years to give the flower and the fruit. A plant which has got a shorter lifespan, like the pea plant, very good for experiments. Second, what was the reason that Mendel had selected this plant for experiments? This is a 2-mark answer. This is a 2-mark question that you are asked. What was the reason that Mendel had selected the pea plants for his experiments? Let us write this answer. What are the reasons that Mendel had selected the pea plants for his experiments? And then the 7 pairs of traits you should know. Then we start with the laws. Let us write down first. What are the reasons for selecting? What are the reasons for selecting the garden pea plants for his experiments? What are the reasons for selecting garden pea plants for his experiments? Or why did Mendel select garden pea plants for his experiments? Number 1. Point number 1 we'll write. Point number 1. The garden pea plants have short lifespan. The garden pea plants have short lifespan. Number 2, they are bisexual. And self-pollinating. They are bisexual and self-pollinating. Number 3, they can be artificially cross-pollinated. कुछ नहीं पता एक और अच्छा दे दे देख इसका हालत है. They can be artificially cross-pollinated. Point number 4, they have a very short lifespan. You've written this point already? Okay. So now the major features. Now what are the major features? Why did Mendel select the pea plants? Number 1, they have a short lifespan. They are bisexual and self-pollinating. They can be artificially cross-pollinated. Number 4, you write down. They exhibit 7 pairs of contrasting traits. They exhibit 7 pairs of contrasting traits. Now, what are the 7 pairs of contrasting traits? We are going to understand. Now, this is a very important part that we have to remember. The 7 pairs of contrasting traits, and based on this, the laws and the process. Now, when we are talking about the 4 reasons you have written when you are asked 2-mark questions, Mention the reasons why Mendel selected the garden pea. These are the 4 reasons that you write. And now we talk about the 7 pairs, the last point that you have written. One big reason for selecting the pea plants were the 7 pairs of contrasting traits. What are the 7 pairs of contrasting traits? Let us talk about. These are the characters. These are the characteristics. Which are the characteristics? Flower color, seed shape, seed color, pod color. What is the meaning of the pod? The outer peel. Pod. The pod shape, the plant height, the flower position. How many characters are we talking about? We are talking about 7 characters. But each of the character, they exhibited 2 traits. What are the traits? What is the meaning of the word traits? Forms of characters. So let us talk about the first one, flower color. What are the 2 traits? Purple, white. What are the 2 traits of the flower color? Purple and white flower. Sometimes the flowers are white, sometimes purple. Seed shape, round, wrinkled. Clear? Seed color, yellow, green. Pod color, green, yellow. Pod shape, inflated. Inflated means most of the times most of you must have come across this. This is nothing exceptional. All of you must have come across this pea pod. Yes or no? The outer cover. The outer cover most of the time we get to see is green and fleshy. That is what is called inflated. But at times in the entire packet, maybe there are some 10 entire pea pods, which will appear a little bit dry, papery, but the outer cover only is dry and papery. The seeds inside are fresh. So if the outer cover, what is the outer cover known as? Pod. So outer cover at times, as I said, it is lesser. Maybe in the entire packet, just 5, 10 only you will come across that way. Where the outer cover is not green, fleshy, but it is papery and dry. Then what will be that be termed as constricted? Plant height, tall and dwarf, just a contrast. And flower position, see here, the flower position. Terminal and axial. Now, terminal and axial, just to understand if you're not clear from the figure there, I talk about a plant. If it is terminal flower and axial flower, how does it differ? If the flowers are arranged like this, then this is what is known as the axial flower, alternately growing from the stem, axial. And if it is terminal, then all the flowers are arranged this way. If it is terminal, then all the flowers are arranged at one particular end and most of the part of the stem is empty, barren. So how many characters are we talking about? 7. How many traits? For every particular character, we are talking about 2 traits. Now this you have to remember. What are the different colors? What are the different characters and their respective traits? But these traits also, since already we have studied how do we write an allele, is KB letters here. How do we write the letters? So along with the letters, you'll have to make a table now in your notebook. Make a table and get acquainted with what letters to use. How will you designate the genotype for each one of them? How to designate the genotype for each one of them? Let us make a table to understand this. While we make the table, we'll have to be very clear that if it is a dominant trait, how do we write a dominant trait? Capital letter. How do we write a recessive? Small letter. Okay, so first of all, we'll talk about the traits. Number 1. What is it? We go by the flower color. The flower color. What are the traits? Flower color. What are the traits? The traits are, what are the traits of the flower color? Purple and white. For purple, we will write capital P. For white, what should we write? W. No, we should not write W. Whatever letter is for the dominant, just the contrast, lowercase letter always written for recessive. So for white, it will be this way. purple, white. Let us continue with the table. Number 2, flower position. Flower position. What did we learn? What are the 2 flower position? Axial and terminal. Axial and terminal. If the flowers are axial, we will have to use capital A. If the flowers are terminal, we will use small a. Third, color of seed. Color of seed. What was it? Yellow. Yellow is dominant, so we will have to write capital Y for yellow. And green is recessive. So since green is recessive, we'll have to write small w. Take a note. We don't write small g. Whichever letter we take for dominant, just the lowercase letter for recessive. Color of seed. Shape of seed. Shape of seed. What are the shapes? Round. Round being dominant, we will use capital R. And wrinkled. And wrinkled being recessive, small r. Color of the pod. Green, capital G, and yellow, small g. Make that table out of it. Next is shape of pod. Shape of pod. What are the shapes? Inflated. Inflated is dominant. We are writing it first. So how should we designate inflated? Capital I. Constricted. How will we designate? Small I. The last one is height of the plant. Tall, dominant, capital T, dwarf, small t. So this is what you should know. Clear till here? Now the laws that we study, the concepts are very simple, but the application of this during an exam when the questions are given in a big paragraph, you'll have to basically understand the concept and try to solve the question. The questions are generally given in a little bit turn twisted way, a big paragraph or question. The concept is always simple. Once you have understood this few concepts that I explained to you just now, the words, the letters, the meanings, then understanding the law will be very easy. Let us start with the principles now, the laws of genetics. 3 laws we are supposed to understand. Let us start with the laws of inheritance. 3 laws of inheritance. Now, what is the concept of the laws of inheritance? What are we studying here? Here, how did Mendel do those experiments for years, for 3-4 years? He had been constantly growing these plants. Her part, whenever he is growing these plants, every time he would see that certain characteristics getting expressed, certain characteristics not expressed at all. तो वो बार-बार उन्होंने सेम एक्सपेरिमेंट किया, रिजल्ट्स बार-बार उनको सेम मिला. Initially he thought he was making a mistake, कुछ तो error हो रहा है. But later he came to some conclusion that somewhere something is a reason why those concepts are followed. Let me just give you a basic idea before we learn how to write for an exam. Concept क्या था? Mendel took some tall plants and he tried breeding. Breeding matlab the tall plants he had grown near the dwarf plants, flowers जो थे they were bisexual. You know now you have studied that entire chapter. When I say bisexual, इसमें anthers भी है, carpel भी है. So this class can go for self pollination also and cross pollination भी हो सकता है. So whenever he had grown this tall and the dwarf plants nearby, he saw every time the next generation plants were exhibiting characteristics of only one plant, not both. Meaning, the next generation plants, every time he saw was tall. तो उन्हें पहले लगा कि कुछ तो प्रॉब्लम हो रहा होगा, some mistake, some error. Then he selected some other. He started observing some other characteristics. The position of the flower. He selected. चलो देखते हैं flower position क्या है. He saw a plant with flower position axial and a flower position terminal अगर है, then all the plants in the first generation had axial flower position. एक भी plant in the first generation did not have dwarf height, या तो axial position, हर एक plant का किसी का भी terminal नहीं था. Then again he started observing purple flowers, a plant with purple flowers crossed with a plant with white flowers, and all plants in the first generation had purple flowers. So abhi now the big question was, why none of the plants in the first generation is dwarf? Why none of the plants in the first generation is terminal? Why none of the plants in the first generation has white flowers? सारे के सारे only one parent को ही क्यों express कर रहा है? That was his query at that time. Are you understanding? आया समझ में what I spoke just now? नहीं? When he had contrasted, meaning when he observed growing these plants, एक बार for 3-4 generation he started observing. इस flower का purple है, इसका white flower है. तो कभी ना कभी तो ऐसा होना चाहिए कि some of these flowers should have white flowers. कभी ना कभी तो ऐसा होना चाहिए ना कि some of these plants should have white flowers. कभी भी नहीं होता. Every time the flowers are purple. So that was a big question mark for QSA. Because this first generation plants would have chromosomes from here also, chromosomes from here also. तो white क्यों नहीं है? Why always purple? So that was a question mark for him. Then again when he observed tall अगर है and dwarf अगर है, कभी ना कभी तो कोई plant dwarf होगा. Never it was dwarf. All plants were tall every time. So ये काफी सालों तक he kept on doing these experiments with different characters. But result वही था. When you take two plants, the F1 plant will only express one parent. This set of traits will never be expressed. But he was convinced that if these flowers are undergoing the process of pollination and ये वाले plants अगर बन रहा है, तो definitely chromosomes and genes pass तो हो रहा है. तो ये वाले genes का कहाँ जा रहा है? ये वाले genes, what is happening to these genes? ये वाले express क्यों नहीं होता? That was his query. Then suddenly he thought, ये जो F1 वाले plants है, F1 मतलब first generation, इसको बोलेंगे parental plants. इसको बोलेंगे first generation. First generation को breed करके जो आएगा उसको बोलेंगे second generation. So after few years, बार-बार यही मिलते he was fed up. Then he thought, let me try breeding दो F1 plant को breed करता हूँ. So he kept two F1 plants together, allowed them to show cross pollination. अब जब ये हुआ, in the second generation, what he observed, if it is tall and dwarf, he observed tall plants सबसे ज़्यादा था in the second generation, but अभी dwarf plants भी है. Dwarf plants first generation में था, एक भी नहीं. First generation में dwarf plants एक भी नहीं, बट सेकंड जनरेशन में अभी ड्वार्फ प्लांट्स है, बट प्रोपोर्शन बहुत कम था. अगर ये टॉल प्लांट 75% है, ड्वार्फ प्लांट्स वर जस्ट 25%, बहुत कम था, पर था अभी. जबकि फर्स्ट जनरेशन में ड्वार्फ एक भी नहीं था. अब अगर मैं एक्सियल और टर्मिनल की बात करूं, सेम ही ऑब्जर्व, एक्सियल 75 है तो टर्मिनल 25 है. मतलब ये जो रिसेसिव ट्रेट्स है, नाउ केम द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ रिसेसिवनेस. सो ही अंडरस्टूड दैट कुछ तो रीजन होगा बिकॉज ऑफ व्हिच ये जो फैक्टर्स है, दो दे आर कमिंग हियर इन दिस प्लान, कोई तो रीजन है जिसके वजह से ये एक्सप्रेस नहीं हो रहा है. But now that we studied the dominance and recessiveness, ये मेंडल ने कभी एक्सप्लेन ही नहीं किया था because at that time he was not aware. All these concepts of dominance and recessiveness was given by some other biologist of his time. ये experiments जब मेंडल करते करते थक गए थे, उनको आंसर नहीं मिल रहा था, some of his contemporaries at his time who also was doing many experiments, उनको ये स्ट्राइक हुआ कि जरूर ऐसा होता होगा where these factors are passing over into this plant, इसके अंदर है, but कोई तो रीजन होगा जिसके वजह से ये एक्सप्रेस नहीं हो रहा है. And then came the concept of dominance and recessive. Dominance and recessive. So ये काफी सालों बाद पता चला था कि when two contrasting. Now say for example, क्या ये concept जो इतने सालों पहले मेंडल had established, is it applicable in human today? Yes. I talk about the father having the brown eye, the mother having the blue eye. What type of a eye color the child will have? Brown. So वो concept, it was not only for the pea plants. Later it was found it is applicable in other animals and even in human. The father is having curly hair, the mother is having straight hair, the child will definitely have curly or wavy hair, not straight hair. So ये जो concept था, ये human also was exhibiting and it was studied by other scientists, that ये जो concept of dominance and recessiveness है, this is applicable not only in the bee plants, but it was a universal concept which was applicable in all plants, sexually reproducing plants, animals and even human, and the law is applicable even today, but कुछ exceptions of course है. Now let us understand how to write these laws and specifically understand the steps. Check whether you are able to follow. Wherever there is a doubt, clarify. Now how do we write these crosses from an exam concept? How are we supposed to write? The first is on this left hand side, I start with the first law. What is the first law known as? The first law is known as the law of dominance. The first law known as the law of dominance. Let us learn how do we write law of dominance. How should we write it for an exam? These laws that we are writing exactly has got step marking. So every step has to be written very nice. On the left side, we'll have to write down the generations exactly like this. Parent plants. What were the parent plants? What was Mendel's basic cross? Basic cross क्या था? Tall and dwarf plants के साथ ही उन्होंने ज़्यादा cross किया था, experiment किया था. So parent plants, what do we write? Tall and dwarf. ये cross बीचों बीच आना चाहिए. How are you supposed to write this? If this is your page, I will come and check your notebooks, how you are writing. In the left panel, ये सारे आने चाहिए, and this should almost come in the middle of your page. And stepwise अच्छी तरह से लिखना है. You are asked for 3 mark, 5 mark questions. Explain with the help of a cross. Step marking होती है. You don't miss out steps, write wrong steps, marks try. So parent plants, we write down this tall and dwarf. तो ये जो हमने words में लिखा tall and dwarf, टॉलनेस एंड ड्वार्फनेस, इसको क्या बोलेंगे? फेनोटाइप और जेनोटाइप? Phenotype. What was the definition of phenotype? The visual expression of an allele. वो allele express कैसे करता है? Curly hair, broad shape of the leaf, green color of the leaf. That is what we are seeing. That is phenotype. अभी phenotype की जो allele combination है उसको लिखेंगे exactly उसके नीचे. उसको ऐसे लिखा जाता है capital T, capital T. This is a recessive allele. तो recessive allele को कैसे लिखेंगे? Small t, small t. अभी why did we write twice? Why did we write it twice? Capital T, capital T. We want to express that this tallness is because of the allele T. We want to express that this tallness is because of the allele T. Can we write रेगुलेट ये होता है, ये है, अरे इसका रेगुलेटर ये, हाँ हाँ इसका ये, चलो. Now, can anybody tell me why we are writing this capital T? I have given you examples. इसको दो बार हमने क्यों लिखा? कैपिटल टी क्यों लिखा? एक बार भी तो लिख सकते थे कैपिटल टी. Because we are talking about ये जो plant है, cell है, cells of a plant. Maybe for this particular plant, how many chromosomes are there? Maybe now 4-5 pairs of chromosomes are there. एक पेड़ के अंदर we are talking about the presence of these allele. आया समझ? Why did we write capital T? Why are alleles written in pairs? Answer क्या लिखना है? Because the cells will always have paired chromosomes. That's the reason we have to write alleles also in pairs. Can I write the allele like this? No, that is wrong. ऐसे नहीं लिख सकते. We cannot write this way. We'll have to write this way because the cells of this plant has paired chromosomes. So कैसे लिखेंगे? We'll keep on writing now the steps. So capital T, that is known as the genotype. या वहाँ पे बैठना है फैन के नीचे, हाँ बैठो ना, हाँ ढक्कन गिरा, मैं तुझे गिराती हूँ, उधर बैठ जा. Or why you are a visiting student here? After 3 weeks you are coming to the class? 2 Actually no, 2 months. क्यों भूल गए थे रास्ता? कौन सा एग्जाम? We are honored that you are here today. Now, when we are talking about this, I say always to remember, put a note and write down at the bottom of the page there. You get questions. Why are alleles written in pairs? Why are they written in pairs? Because the cells have paired chromosomes. Every cell has paired chromosomes. That's the reason we write this way. The next concept is to write gametes. You know the concept of gametes now. What are gametes? Cells formed by process of cell division. Which cell division is involved in the formation of gametes? Which cell division is involved in the formation of gametes? Yes. Meiosis. So now, here we are not talking about how many gametes. Here we are only talking about how many types of gametes. So the moment I talk about gamete formation, always to remember, again, try understanding. This was the cell. I talk about a pair of chromosomes, something like this. Cell division has to happen as a result of cell division. If now the cell gets divided, the chromosome is also split. So one chromosome here, the other chromosome here. And these are the gametes that I consider. Now look into this figure and tell me, are the gametes of the same type or different types? Same type? Are the gametes of the same type or different types? Are the gametes containing the same allele or different allele? Same allele. So are the gametes same type? Yes, the gametes are same type. That is a rule always. The alleles are identical. This is a homozygous condition. If it is a homozygous condition, gametes produced will be of the same type. But had this been a heterozygous condition like this, then gametes produced would have been how many types? Had this been a heterozygous condition like this, gametes produced would have been 2 types. Clear? So now we talk about the gametes produced. How many types of gametes from this parent? How many types of gametes from this parent? 1 type. How many types of gametes from this parent? Just now in this diagram I showed you. How many types of gametes? 1 type. How many types of gametes? 1 type. So since they are just 1 type of gametes, we can write it once also, or we write it in this form twice. Gametes should be written this way. What about here? Yes, the same way we write this and this. So the gametes are same types. Why gametes are same type? Parents are homozygous. First, generation plans now. You'll have to write this way, F1 generation plans, meaning these are the first generation plans. First generation plans, how will we get? Pollination of these 2 types of, or fertilization between this and this gamete. Any two. Fertilization of this and this, or fertilization of this and this, the same thing. Fertilization of this and this also you can show. What is the pair of chromosome formed? Tell me now. What will be the pair of alleles now if this and this chromosome fertilize? What will be the pair of alleles? Capital T and small t. What is the phenotype of this plant? Isko kya bolenge? Genotype. This is the genotype. Pair of allele. What did we learn earlier? If I talk about this and this is the genotype. I had shown you in the previous example. Yes, this is the genotype. Then what should be the phenotype? What was the phenotype Mendel observed? The plants are all tall. Mendel observed the plants are all tall plants. So from this concept, what is the dominant allele? Which is the dominant allele? The allele for tallness. Q? Because this allele is not expressing and remaining suppressed. So the allele which remains suppressed is known as recessive allele. The allele which expresses is known as dominant allele. Complete karo. Then we'll have to write down the law. Because very quiet. इससे कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. We'll finish and then I'll give you the break. फटाफट यहाँ तक करो and then we'll write down the law. See that you understand. See that you understand. All of you will write till here, till the phenotype, the law of dominance. Now the first law that we write, the law of dominance, the statements has to be very clearly written and the explanation. In your exam, if you are lucky enough, you may get the basic typical tall dwarf pair example milega. Sometimes you get any other pair you may get from here. But you'll have to remember dominant kaun sa tha, recessive kaun sa tha, and you'll have to make a cross there. Once you are done till here, we will write down the law, write down within inverted comma, keep writing, out of a pair, P-A-I-R, out of a pair of contrasting alleles. Out of a pair of contrasting alleles. Wow, super. हाँ? ये ब्रेक के बाद वाला क्लास नहीं है, ये ब्रेक के पहले वाला क्लास है. out of a pair of contrasting alleles, comma, the allele that expresses in the F1 generation, the allele that expresses in the F1 generation is the dominant allele, and the allele that remains suppressed. The allele that remains suppressed is the recessive allele. The allele that remains suppressed is the recessive allele. After the break, we'll go to the next law, which is an extension of this, that is the law of segregation. Take a break. After the break, we'll continue with it.
इसमें ये एक ही तो लेक्चर रहता है इसको फोल्ड करेंगे एक बार इसको आगे करेंगे इसको पकड़ेंगे इसके बन गया नहीं बजा मालूम है उसमें बात है बताने की बात ही है नहीं का इसके साथ तो बैठ के
हेलो
ऑलमोस्ट एक दो
ये क्लासेस चलो एक बार कितना डिग्री हुआ बुखार
मुझे नहीं पता मैथ्स का बोल रहा हूं
टेक्नोमेट्री है एप्लीकेशन ऑफ टेक्नोमेट्री देखो